This Sunday, the threat from Russia.
We are ready no matter what happens.
More Russian troops massing on Ukraine's border.
Russia's aggression today not only threatens Ukraine, it also threatens Europe.
The U.S. sends 3,000 troops to Eastern Europe.
We're going to make sure we reassure our NATO allies in Eastern Europe that we're there.
Vladimir Putin breaks his silence and says the U.S. is ignoring Russia's security concerns.
When he puts 100,000 troops along the border, I think we should be prepared for further incursions.
And gains an ally in America's superpower rival, China. My guest this morning, President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. Plus, Pence rebukes Trump.
President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election.
Mike Pence responds to Donald Trump's claims he could have overturned the election. This as the RNC censures Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for participating in the January 6th investigation.
All of those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
And calls the Capitol riot legitimate political discourse. I'll talk to Mr. Pence's former chief of staff, Mark Short. And the NFL's race problem.
I think the numbers speak for themselves. One black head coach.
Some 20 years after the league pledged to do better, why do NFL coaches still look like the old boys club? Joining me for insight and analysis are former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, Amy Walter, editor-in-chief and publisher of the Cook Political Report, Matthew Continetti of the American Enterprise Institute, and Helene Cooper, Pentagon correspondent for the New York Times. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest-running show in television history, this is Meet the Press with Chuck Todd.
And a good Sunday morning. In 2008, during the Summer Olympic Games in Beijing, Russian troops invaded neighboring Georgia. The then Prime Minister of Russia, Vladimir Putin, declared from Beijing, war has started. In 2014, Russian troops moved into Crimea just days after Putin returned from the Winter Olympics in Sochi. And now with the Winter Games underway in Beijing and with Putin in attendance, the world is left to guess, is Putin about to pull the trigger again, this time on Ukraine? U.S. plans for a diplomatic boycott of the Games have largely fizzled, and Putin has found an ally in China's leader, Xi Jinping. On Friday, Putin met with Xi, who offered strong support for Russia in its standoff with the West, at least publicly. The two issued a joint statement saying friendship between the two states has no limits. China has offered political support to Russia over Ukraine, including blocking U.S.-sponsored action at the UN Security Council. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, has been covering the buildup of Russia's military forces. He's on the border of Russia and Ukraine and eastern Ukraine. And Richard, this is a case, I think, of watch what they do, don't necessarily listen to what Russia says. What do you see, Richard?
Well, we're seeing a massive military buildup. This is unlike anything I've seen since the American 2003 buildup before it launched the war in Iraq. And I think that's why we're hearing these really dire intelligence assessments coming out from U.S. officials, that if there was a war, there could be 50,000 Ukrainians killed, 25,000 soldiers, 10,000 Russian troops, 1 to 5 million refugees are internally displaced. And these dire warnings are now being heard in Ukraine. For the last several days, several weeks, people had been living in a kind of suspended disbelief that maybe this was just Russia bluffing, that Russia was trying to get some diplomatic advantage. Now people are starting to believe this could happen, and it could happen potentially imminently. So we're starting to see rallies in government in major cities. We're seeing more and more people signing up for volunteer service. We're hearing more of a fighting spirit from people. When I ask people, what are they going to do? And they say, we will fight until the end. And I think because this country won't be a walkover, that's why those intelligence estimates are so high for what the cost might be. But Ukrainians also know that if it comes to fighting, they are going to have to fight Russia by themselves, that NATO has promised support. It's sending in some weapons, but at the end of the day, NATO isn't coming in here to help them. So Ukrainians will only have their own troops and their own defense systems like these trenches to fight off Russia.
Richard Engel, like I said, he's on the border right now of Russia and Ukraine and eastern Ukraine. Richard, thank you. And joining me now is the